and welcome to the Practice Marketing Podcast, highlighting successful strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics and experts so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. Hi, I'm your host, Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions, and today we're going to focus on how to rank your practice at the top of Google. And today we're joined by Amy Gray, who's our head of SEO here at Practice Promotions. And Amy leads our SEO team and works closely with physical therapy and rehabilitation practice owners to help them improve their online visibility, attract more qualified website traffic, and generate more new patient inquiries through organic search. And in this episode, we're breaking down SEO and AEO and AI search and all this new stuff here. And we'll discuss how it works, what's changed with the rise of AI and tools like ChatGPT, and what clinic owners need to focus on to ensure they're still being found online, being competitive at the top of Google, and getting in front of patients who need them most. So Amy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Always happy to talk about what we do.
Yeah, totally. So let's start with the basics, right? The fundamentals here. And so when we're talking SEO, what is that, and why is it so important for clinics to really think about this as part of what they're doing to attract new patients?
Yeah, sure. So SEO, search engine optimization, to put it simply, it's the practice of making a clinic's website and online presence show up. So when patients are searching for the services you offer, you're visible. So I like to kind of think of it as making sure your digital front door is visible and easy to find. And that is not just your website. That includes your Google business profile, online reviews, etc. So what makes it really important for physical therapy clinics is the patient journey almost always starts online. So when someone wakes up and if they're either in pain or have stiffness following a surgery, their first move is going to be to do a Google search. It's not going to be to call an insurance agency or look in the phone book. So if your clinic is not appearing in those results, then they're going to call your competitor. So that's why it's so important. And we do know that almost 90% of Americans will search online for health information before they'll see a provider. So.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, that is, and there's many forms of the online search, right? And it's evolving fast. There's a lot of changes there, but fundamentally that's still true, right? That people go online first to look for a service. They're looking for health information. They're looking at like what do they need to do to handle this particular pain or problem. Like they start there. And so if your clinic's not commanding those different spots there, whether it's at the top of Google, whether it's on ChatGPT, whether it's on local map searches like on Google, or even map searches on Apple on iPhones, right? There's Apple Business Connect, those kind of things, right? So being visible at the top of all these different types of searches is key to the success of your practice. And so just kind of curious, a lot has changed. This year's been bananas in terms of what Google has done, and just kind of curious from your perspective, what's been changing here over these last few years, and especially with, we've got all these terminologies now. We've got SEO, we've got local search, we've got AEO, we've got AI overviews. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. So you hit all of those. So I think that search behavior has shifted in three major ways. So it's how people are searching, where they're searching, and then what are they expecting now when they find you? So, honestly, all three of those have changed pretty dramatically in just the last 2 or 3 years. So if we kind of dig into each of those a little bit more. So when we talk about how people are searching now, it's more conversational. It's more condition specific. Patients used to type little generic queries, right? Like physical therapy near me or, PT clinic enrichment, but that's not how people are really searching anymore. They're asking full questions. So what's the best PT for sciatica, or how long does physical therapy take for whatever, a rotator cuff repair? So voice search has accelerated this. And, when you're talking in your phone or on a device, you're not just saying keywords anymore. You're asking full questions. So the implication for clinics is huge here, because if your website says something generic, like we treat musculoskeletal conditions, you're invisible to the people that are searching for their specific condition or problem, right? Back pain, pelvic floor dysfunction. So that's what people are looking for, and we need pages dedicated to those. So that's the how. The where people are searching, it's not just Google anymore, and it's everything that you kind of just mentioned. So for a long time, the patient journey started and ended on Google. And that's mostly true like for the booking phase. So when someone's ready to call, they'll still go to Google Maps. But it's the research that has changed. So more and more people, especially like adults under 40, are starting on ChatGPT or Perplexity, and they want to understand their symptoms before they ever even open a search results page. And so what that means is your content really needs to serve two audiences, right? So it needs to rank on Google, but also be the kind of authoritative, structured content that AI tools will pull from. The good news there is that those two goals are almost identical in terms of what we do. So as long as we continue to write helpful content, condition-specific content, we win in both of those areas. And then the third thing that I think really has changed is what people expect. So before they even call, they want to know you and they want to trust you. And I think this is the one that surprises, like, not just clinic owners, but in general, people the most when they're talking about marketing their business online, because it's the research piece that's coming first. So before they even land on your listing, your website or whatever, they're trying to decide if you're trustworthy enough to even call. So they're looking at things like reviews, photos, whether you're speaking to something specific to them, like your condition or problem. And so, that changes things because now your Google ranking isn't just a reputation thing, right? Like it's part of your SEO. So if you've got quality reviews, recent reviews, you can outrank other clinics. So I think the big thing there is what they're expecting is not, I hope I can find someone that's good. I've already found someone's good. They've proven it before I make the call. So, things have shifted a lot. When you put those three things together, more specific searches, more platforms, higher trust, the old approach isn't going to work anymore. So it's more than just a website or a listing. You have to have the right answer and be in the right place and have enough credibility for them to actually want to make that call. So,
broad overview is the search behavior is evolving, right? It's changing. And so we have to change how we're approaching getting in front of patients because their behavior is changing with that. And, things are changing out there. Google's gone through some of its biggest updates it's ever had in the last 20 years this year, right? Especially like in March and April, and massive changes in the way Google does stuff in response to what the audience wants, right? And how people are searching is changing a lot. And the key thing is that we hear the rise of ChatGPT and these kind of platforms that people are going deeper into asking questions and wanting the information. But I think the key thing to understand is it's still, I think Google searches when it comes to like healthcare is still about 95% of searches, right? And only 5% in ChatGPT. It's slowly changing, but I still think, Google's going to be for a long, long time the 800-pound gorilla that you want to, go after. But within Google itself, just the way that the search results have come up has radically changed. And I know this year was, again, another massive change through that. And I think about 46% of searches done now on Google pull up the AI overview first at the top. And so, with those rise of AI tools like ChatGPT, with that Google AI overview, is SEO still relevant for PT practices?
Yeah, that's a question that I think a lot of people are wondering. And my answer would be absolutely. So the most important thing that PT clinic owners need to understand about this new kind of rise in AI is Google has specifically excluded local healthcare provider searches from AI overview. So as of right now, those searches are still returning the traditional map pack local results. So searches that drive actual new patients, physical therapy near me, PT clinic in Richmond, right? So those are still 100% traditional SEO territory. So where AI has changed things is it's earlier in the patient journey. So like I mentioned before, it's the research phase. So if someone searches, how long does PT take after a surgery, ACL surgery? They're probably going to get an AI overview. That's going to answer their question without ever sending them to your website. So that's the real shift. And it's why we tell clinics, focus less on broad informational content and more on the bottom of funnel, high intent searches where patients are ready to book. So, and then the other piece of this, and this is where it gets really interesting, is tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, things like that. They're becoming their own referral channel. So when a patient asks like ChatGPT, who's the best PT for pelvic floor, you want your clinic to be what comes up. And so the way that you influence that is the same thing that drives traditional SEO. So authoritative content, strong reviews, consistent online presence. So I think while there has been a huge shift and different searches will kind of bring up different results, really good SEO today works on two tracks at once. So staying dominant in local search while building the credibility that AI systems are looking for and cite at the same time. So I think the big thing is don't panic about AI, but don't ignore it.
Yeah.
So if you're investing in SEO right now, you're actually positioning yourself really well for both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And we have to realize like what is fueling the AI results. And it's a scraper tool. It scrapes the information that's out on the internet. It's scraping the and trying to deliver an answer for your question, right? So if you have and it's looking for, just like with Google, it's looking for the most has the most authority. It has the most relevance. And so that's where if you have really, really good content on your website and you have good indicators that you have a lot of connections online, you have a lot of great reviews, you have a lot of pictures, you have a lot of things happening within social media, all of that, which is part of SEO anyway, that is what fuels the search results or the results in ChatGPT, for example.
Yes.
Right? And
exactly.
So, like you said, don't panic. Just it's all about good practices. And so when it comes to SEO, I think what you really need to look at is your website a good content machine? Is it, and then from an online presence, do you have very good business profiles? So we're talking about Google business profiles. We're talking about Apple Business Connect. We're talking about Bing places, like these different ones. And then there's lots and lots, there's thousands of different directories online from Yahoo and Waze and Uber and all these kind of different businesses online, these directories. And so is your business information correct in all of these types of listings? Are you on those types of listings? That's another thing. A lot of clinics don't have enough of the information on those types of directories, and so that's an area for improving SEO. And then there's things like backlinks. Right? Backlinks is basically how your business is mentioned on other websites or linking from other websites to your website. So things that you should do, that's a good local practice. Are you part of your local business chamber of commerce, right? Business chamber of commerce?
Yeah.
It's very simple, right? Pay maybe $50 a year, $100 a year, and you get your information, your directory on the local chamber of commerce, and that then links back to your website. That's a backlink. Or are you part of a local soccer association that you could have your website linked to? Again, it builds credibility in people's eyes. So things that you can definitely be doing yourself from an SEO perspective. But all of that affects both Google rankings and it also affects AI.
Exactly. Yeah. Great points, all of them. And they do. It's, it's really, when you're looking at it, you can almost look at it holistically, the way that it all works together, right? So your traditional core best practices for SEO are going to help you. And there's some slight differences. There's a few things we can do slightly different, but for the most part, the things that we do and, the things that we're focusing on will help you in both directions. So
excellent. And so we know that putting content on our website, so articles, blogs, the pages that we have that are specific to the services we provide, many clinic owners are hearing that AI can create this content for them and do the SEO for them. And so just kind of curious, like why couldn't someone just go and use Claude or use ChatGPT and say, hey, give me, what should I do for SEO on my website? And what, can you write me an article, a blog post about this, and then go do it? So what's the difference between DIYing it yourself, right? Or having a real SEO strategy?
Yeah, this comes up a lot. We get this a lot. And I really do get it. AI tools are impressive, and right now they're flashy and they're new. And so the temptation is real, whether you're looking at a more cost affordable agency who offers to use AI to help, or if you are like a clinic owner and you're like, you know what, I can use AI and I can do this. I don't need, I can handle it myself. So to me, it feels like AI has kind of lowered the barrier a little bit so that you think you don't need real strategy, that it can replace it. And that's where a lot of people can get into trouble, that kind of thought process. So I will think about it like this. So this is a little analogy here. So AI is like having a really fast carpenter, but a fast carpenter without a blueprint is just making sawdust, right? So AI can write content quickly. It can help with keyword research. We know that. It can draft meta descriptions. So it's genuinely useful for execution. But what it can't do is walk into your market. It can't understand your competition or figure out what conditions you should be building pages around for your clinic. It can't earn you backlinks. So it's not going to truly build the kind of clinical authority that Google is rewarding, right? And that last part matters now more than ever. So we all know that Google has a quality framework, right? EAT. So we're looking for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness. And that's going to come from content that demonstrates real clinical knowledge. So I think it's, prompting ChatGPT, at 10 p.m. after a full day of treating patients, or even an agency doing that same process for you for every client is going to produce content that is looking pretty thin, under Google's lens. And they're getting better at telling the difference.
Yeah, I think that's, I saw that recently that, Google's policies are updating where they are penalizing more content that is just straight AI created versus content that's very dialed into the locality and the specifics about that practice, that mentions like specific outcomes of a result with a patient, for example. Like the more they're looking for real content, right? Because there's we see it happening. There's just gazillions of AI slop being generated out there and thrown up, and Google doesn't, it doesn't help Google's customers.
Right.
Well, this AI slop, right? So they're being much more picky now. They're putting things in place. It's even coming. They're going to get stricter with it. But how can you use it? Like our team uses a lot of AI, right? We use a lot of AI for SEO analysis and all kinds of things there too. But you need that human strategy and collaboration with the clinic in order to really dial in what's most impactful and helpful for them.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that a good way to think about it is, use AI to move faster, but pair it with PT specific strategy, clinician reviewed content, things like that. So, and then back it up with other like technical and local SEO and the other things that you're not, using AI tools for. But content volume is not the same thing as an SEO strategy. So using AI, kind of to make you faster, I think it just needs to be paired with a good solid base.
Yeah, totally. And so for a clinic out there, obviously we work with hundreds and hundreds of clinics. I'm just kind of curious, what are some of the biggest SEO mistakes that you see PT clinics making today?
The top 10% of PT owners aren't just surviving, they're thriving. But what's their secret? Well, Neil Trickett's new Market to Grow book reveals how the top 10% of PT practices leverage marketing systems to simultaneously grow their new patients, attract top talent, and boost profit in their practice. You can learn from their secrets. Visit practicepromotions.net/book to claim your free copy of Market to Grow. Yes, you heard that right. We are shipping a free copy of Market to Grow to all podcast listeners who want it. Just visit practicepromotions.net/book to claim your free book. And now back to the show.
Yeah. I think the biggest things, they're not technical really. They're more kind of strategic gaps that are really common. So one of the biggest things would be treating your business profile as a set it and forget it task. So most clinic owners will claim a listing, put in your address, you put in your phone number, and you move on. But a business profile as part of strategy, that's often the very first thing that a patient is going to see. So before your website, before your reviews, before anything else, they're coming across your business profile. So I think making sure that it's fully built out, categories, service descriptions, conditions, regular photos being added, consistent reviews, all of those things need to be done, and really is a great strategy for outranking competitors, right? Even ones with bigger websites, larger budgets. That is probably the highest ROI move in local SEO, is optimizing your Google business profile. So I think that's one mistake, is kind of not paying attention to that and leaving it half finished.
Mm-hmm.
The one other thing that I do see a lot would be generic content. So we talked about this a little bit earlier. So, you really need to be specific, because that's how people are searching now. So, if you don't have dedicated pages that speak to conditions that your patients are looking for, then you're invisible. And so the clinics that are winning have very specific pages written with clinical depth for specific content.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be like your knee pain page, or your TMJ page, or your public health page, like those kind of things, right?
Yes. And so, great example would be our websites for our clients are really fully built out. And we really try to address all of the things that a potential patient is coming and looking for. And one other thing that I'm thinking about while we're talking about this would be review generation. So that also is something that I think people are leaving on the table. And maybe, I don't know if you'd call it a mistake, but it's definitely something that not only Google is looking at, but patients are looking at. So growing review count consistently is another area where I think people maybe not necessarily making mistakes, but just leaving a lot on the table.
Yeah, overlooking it, right? And
yes.
I 100% agree with you on all those points. And I think the key thing to understand is that in order to build your practice, attract more patients to come to you, you have to dominate these searches, right? You have to be high up on the rankings, as people choose the top of Google more than they choose the bottom of Google. And they certainly don't go to page 2. Right. So we got to be at the top of Google. And it's, like you said, it's not a set it and forget it. You have to realize, like, it's dynamic. Google makes hundreds of changes a year, and they make 3 to 5 major ones each year. So things change all the time with Google. So you're playing in Google's sandbox, and you have to be very dynamic, and you have to be consistent with constantly updating your marketing, your website, your online presence, in order to position yourself, right? It's a battle for the top. Just think of it that way. So yeah, the key things that are going to help you get there is, like, do you have consistent processes in the clinic for getting reviews? Like, do you have software systems? Are your therapists trained? Are your front desk trained on asking reviews? Do you have targets for everybody in terms of, like, how many reviews you want them to get in a month? Where's the machine, right? So build the machine for getting reviews. People look for that trust factor. They look for what people are saying about your clinic. Those kind of things do show up also in search results. So it's critical. And then the business profile, again, that's not something you just do one time. Like, you have to keep updating the photos in there, right? Add new videos. You need to add new posts and articles in there. So blogs are a great thing to do on your website. Post them up in there. There's a lot. It's dynamic, right? You can't just do it one time, optimize it, and then never think about it again, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And the review piece too, it just, the volume that you need, it's just not going to happen organically. So it's great, like that you're mentioning, like processes and how are you going to do this and how are you going to request these reviews to get the volume that you need to really make a difference and make you stand out versus your competitor.
Got it. And so we hear this terminology. There's SEO, which is search engine optimization. There's local SEO. There's AEO, which is answer engine optimization. Just kind of curious for our audience out there, like how important is local SEO for physical therapy practices, and what role does that play in attracting new patients? Kind of like, what is it to begin with? Like what's the difference between that and just like organic SEO?
Yeah. So, local SEO, this is like for physical therapy, local SEO isn't just one part of the strategy. I would say it basically is the strategy, right? So PT is inherently a local service. Nobody's driving 45 minutes twice a week to go to treatment. So the question really isn't like whether it matters. It's whether you're showing up when the right patients in your area are looking, right? So this is SEO that we are going to do and implement on your site so that you can be found in your local market. You can compete in your local market. The centerpiece of local SEO is the map pack. So, the three business, we know, but so for people watching, the three business listings that appear at the top of the results when someone searches like physical therapy near me, that's where the majority of new patient clicks happen. And so it's entirely separate from where you rank in regular search results. So there's the difference between, kind of an organic result and a local result. So, a clinic can have a really great website and still lose patients every day because they're not showing up there. So that is a strategy in itself. So when you want to make that map pack, it kind of comes down to three things that Google is going to look at. They're going to look at relevance, distance, and prominence, right? So distance you can't control, but relevance, like how clearly your presence communicates the conditions that you treat, and then who you serve. And then prominence, your reviews, your directory listings, the consistency of your posting and information across the web, those are entirely in your hands and built deliberately, like over time. So there's a definite difference there. A big piece, and we've talked about this a lot. So reviews and ratings are a big piece of local ranking signals. And so, a clinic that has 200 recent reviews at 4.8 stars is going to outrank a clinic with 40 reviews, right? Yeah. Almost every time. So here again, just kind of another mention of the importance of review generation and looking good. It's definitely a direct lever when it comes to local SEO.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's one of the factors, right, that Google takes into consideration. But it's not the only one, and I think that's a confusion sometimes for practice owners. Like, oh, if I just get a lot more reviews, I'm going to rank, number one on the map pack. That's not how it works, right? It's like maybe 5 or 10% of what Google takes into consideration of its rankings. But what is super critical about it is it's what the actual person is looking at. If they see a clinic with 1,000 reviews and they see another one with 10 reviews, well, in their mind, they're going to look at the one with 1,000 reviews and they click on it. Well, when they click on it more, Google likes that. They're going to show you more because you're getting clicked on more than someone who's got 10 reviews. So it does factor into it that way, but it also builds the emotional trust of the patient to explore you before a competitor, just because you have more reviews. So yeah, that review generation is such a critical part of it. I just think back to like when I was a PT, I remember treating a patient. We were kind of talking about technology and geeking out and stuff like that. And I remember him talking because back in those days it was like Netscape and AOL and that kind of stuff. And he was saying, oh, have you heard of this thing called Google? Like, what's Google, right? And that was, I don't know, 25 plus years ago. But here we are today, right? And that's a major part of everybody's life in terms of how we find stuff. But the search results back then were just top 10. right? You just top 10, right? And then came along ads. They started to put a few ads at the top. And then, fast forward to today, well, we've got for 46% of searches that are not local based, right? That are like service specific, but AI chunk at the top. Underneath that, we might have, say, 3 to 4 ads. And then we've got the map, right? And then we've got more sponsored ads. And then we've got the top 10 at the bottom, right? So we have this really long search page now, but most of it now is pay to play or AI. But if it's someone like, hey, what's the best physical therapy clinic near me? Well, it's going to show the map part at the top,
Yes.
right? And then or sometimes, usually like the ads, you might get like 2 to 3 ads at the top, an ad in the map section, and then 3 organic ones in there too. So everything plays together. So you need to be doing Google ads to be at the very top, but you also need to be in the local search strategy on that. And then of course you've got your further down the page is SEO. But one thing I really try to explain to practice owners too is that it's not just about being the number one spot. And to me, it's about, we see it time and time again. Repetition on the page is what moves people to click into your website to call you. So ideally, if you have your ads running, you're going to be and someone searches for physical therapy near me, you're going to have your ads pop up at the top, right? So it'll be number one spot there too. You should then be able to get a second ad spot in the map section. So that's 2 spots. You show up organically in that local map section. So now you got 3 spots, and you show up in the top 10 underneath, and now you got 4 spots. So if I'm a patient and I'm looking through and I see your name 4 times on page 1 of my search, I'm much more likely to click on you than someone who just has one, like they don't do ads and they're just maybe on the map section. I'm going to choose you because you're mentioned 4 times. So that's part of overall strategy too.
Right. And that, that's a great point. And it a little bit of an aside, going back to what we talked about earlier, is local provider searches are specifically protected, right, from AI overviews. And so, it's not going to be an AI generated summary. You're going to get, when you're looking for doing those local searches, you're going to get the map, the listings, or reviews. And so the kind of what's really going to fill your schedule as a clinic owner is investing in local SEO, right? In addition to everything else, it's kind of like one big view, but local SEO definitely still does have an advantage that I'm not sure AI is going to erode that anytime soon.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's going to be a long
definitely
time
still
for that.
Very important.
Yeah, and Google, they make a lot of money, right? So they're fighting it just as hard as everybody else, right? So they're changing things up. They want to keep command of the market. They're not going to go anywhere different with that. So SEO, we often view it as a long-term strategy. So what are some of the expectations for clinic owners? Like, hey, I need to rank better in Google. I'm going to work with an agency on that, and then next week I'll be number 1, right? Like, how long is that realistic? Like, what's typically the length of an SEO strategy?
Yeah, we get these kind of questions a lot. Our department does, and I think it's one of the most important expectation setting conversations, right, that we can have really in all of digital marketing. But it's also definitely a frustration for clinics. So I think there's a couple things to consider. So if we're starting from scratch, or if we're working with, an existing website that already has a little bit of history, it might be a little bit different. But it really is kind of a long game. But so for an established clinic that already has a website, maybe has some reviews, some sort of online presence, even if you haven't been actively working in it, you're not starting from zero. So Google already has a little bit of sense of who you are. And in that case, some foundation work has been done. So I would say first 3 months, you might be producing early signals faster than if you're starting out fresh. So Google business profile improvements, keyword movement on less competitive terms, growing review counts kind of within that first window. By month 6, your content work happening consistently, meaningful ranking gains could be realistic at that point. If you're in a mid-sized market, you might hit the map pack for core terms somewhere within that 6-month range. For brand new websites, it really is a different story, right? So you have to factor in domain authority for sites that have no history. So if we have a new client that's coming on first time, hasn't had a web presence, Google really needs time to trust that site before it's willing to rank it competitively. So that doesn't mean that nothing happens early on. Like your business profile can still perform regardless of your website age. But organic rankings are going to take longer to build. So truly, I would plan for more of the 6 to 12 month before you're really competing. The biggest caveat really for both situations is market competition. So if you're in a smaller market, you might see movement within 90 days, right? But if you're going after like physical therapy, Charlotte, North Carolina, it's much more of a competitive fight.
Yeah.
So the strategy is the same, but what you're up against determines how long it's going to take you to reach the top. But I will say this. So, SEO, unlike paid ads, they stop the moment that you stop paying. SEO compounds. So every month of that consistent work is going to make the next month more effective. So if you stay patient and stay consistent, those are the clinics that we end up seeing do really well.
Yeah, it's like saving money, right? It's compounding interest. It'll get better and better over time. It just takes some time for it to like get to the point that you want, right? And I think it's really important for practice owners to understand too, like it's such a critical part of the growth of your business. It's something that really needs a lot of attention and professional help. But it's not an instant fix. You're playing again in Google's sandbox, right? You're under what Google is doing, and you're trying to play by their rules. And it's like dating, right? Google's your dream, partner there, and you want to like really wow them and have them pay attention to you and like you the most. It takes some dating to get there, right? So that's the key thing with SEO. But again, you can sidestep some of that long-term strategy with paid, right? So that's where Google Ads come into play. Like if you really like need to get things rocking quickly, like Google Ads, you can get up there. You can be performing pretty good within 30 to 60 days using Google Ads, right? And then SEO kind of comes up behind it. And as you mentioned, Amy, it's very different depending on the market. So if you're kind of a rural city or rural kind of town, you're probably going to get much faster results. But if you're in New York City or Boston or San Francisco, like you're going to be very competitive. It's going to take some time for that.
Right.
So just kind of curious, working with a lot of our clients there, what would you say Practice Promotions does differently when it comes to SEO compared to other, low cost agency or even now like different AI solutions?
Yeah. So one of the things that I love is that Practice Promotions was built specifically for physical therapy and rehab, right? Not general small businesses, not for healthcare broadly, but for PT clinics and by physical therapists. And so I think that vertical focus changes everything about how we approach SEO. So the thing about AI generated content that most people who are just using the tool and they don't realize it until they look really closely is AI can sound like it understands physical therapy without actually understanding it, right? Like it knows the words, it can string together a sentence, and it can talk about manual therapy and therapeutic exercise, and it can look like pretty convincing on the surface, but it doesn't understand how a patient describes their shoulder pain at 10 p.m. when they're looking for help. It doesn't necessarily know what conditions are driving the most new patient volume, can't make clinical judgments and things like that. So that's the difference between content that ranks and content that converts. Like it can help you write content to rank. But something that I'm really proud of at Practice Promotions is, our content copywriting team is led by a physical therapist. And that's not what you're going to find using AI. That's not what you're going to find at a generic agency, right? AI platforms. And so that makes a real difference. It means the content that we're producing, it's not just optimized for search. It's clinically accurate. It's written in language that patients actually use when they're searching. And so it really reflects the patient experience from someone who's lived it on the treatment side, right? Who's actually writing for us. So I think for SEO specifically, it matters, enormously for Google's quality framework. And our demonstrated expertise is exactly what they're going to reward. So genuine clinical knowledge, and it doesn't just read better; it's going to perform better.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And we had a great podcast with Matt, our head of copywriting there, who's PT and former practice owner, and he's been in AI copywriting and all kinds of stuff for years. And it's very interesting because you got to have that blend of knowledge, personalization. You can leverage AI to some extent with that too. But he said it was very fascinating because a lot of kind of the data and research stuff, AI will what you call hallucinate. So it actually makes stuff up, right?
Yes.
And so you'll come up with this made up stuff that you think is stats or research, but it's really just AI just made it up, right? And that is a concern that we see in different websites, different content that's going out there. Like, is that really legit? Like, is that something that's coming across? So it definitely comes with a warning with just purely trying to solve everything with AI. And we do have clients that are using AI a lot within their practice. That's fantastic. I think it can really increase your capabilities in your practice. But one of the challenges that we get on our side is that, I used ChatGPT and I did an SEO analysis, and then it comes up with all these things. And again, this is coming off of what it's scraping off the internet, which is not really relevant to the strategy in your practice. So it's going to give you a lot of times like just false answers or things that aren't really going to make the impact that you need for your physical therapy website or physical therapy SEO. And so that's where you have to be careful in using the outputs of AI. Make sure that it matches with what humans are recommending in experience level, right? Where can you have the best of both worlds? But I'm sure you hear that too on your side, Amy.
Yeah, I do. And I don't want to make it sound like AI isn't a useful tool for us, because like you're saying, it really does have a place and it can be very useful and helpful, but it definitely shouldn't be just taken at face value. So the human review and putting that experience into it, I think is the thing to use them kind of hand in hand if you're going to use AI. But yeah, it can definitely be helpful in creating content. I just think it's that personal touch, to know is this answering a question that my potential patient is gonna ask? Am I answering it the right way? Am I using the terminology that they would ask? And so not just for search. I think AI does write really well for search. It's going to write content that ranks, right? But what we want is content that converts. So we're trying to really put that piece together between the content and the patient.
Yeah, we're two different audiences. We're speaking to Google and AI search, and we're also speaking to our patients, right? We got to write for both people. We got to structure our websites for both types of people, our content online, our online presence, and all those kind of things. And I was just thinking about, as we were talking about that, I'm sure now a lot of our clients and our audience out there that are in the trenches with treating patients, I'm sure you're getting patients come in on their phone with a ChatGPT pulled up of like, hey, ChatGPT says we should treat my knee this way. And I'm sure you're frustrated with that. You're like, no, this is my experience, this way that we should be treating your knee. I'm sure you're getting that 100% now in your practice, but that's what life is like. So you've got Dr. Google, now you got Dr. ChatGPT. Exactly. And I think what we're hearing is that people are using a lot more AI and they're searching, as we said at the beginning, in a very different way, like research type of searches that are going on now, much deeper type of searches that are going on now. How is your clinic going to show up for that? And there's a lot that can be done to keep you at that competitive advantage, that edge that you need for your practice to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Amy, any final words of advice here for our audience to improve their SEO?
Yeah, I think just what I said before, we don't need to panic about AI, right? It's a great, useful tool, but we don't need to ignore it either. And we're not, certainly. So I think what is going to happen is the clinics that will thrive are the ones that are going to understand what parts of SEO have changed and what parts are it's durable as ever, right? So double down on local. Google's made it clear that local provider searches belong in traditional search. So we're going to double down on that. The clinic that owns MapPack in their market has a total competitive advantage, and AI is not going to change that. At the same time, invest in being cited by AI, not just ranking on Google. So, the next thing showing up will be when a patient asks ChatGPT, who's the best PT for pelvic floor issues, right? So invest in being cited by AI. Don't ignore it. But the biggest thing is continue making content that is actually helpful. Keyword stuff, blog post, that's over. AI systems and Google alike are rewarding content that demonstrates expertise, answers actual questions. And so those things haven't changed. Those are the things that we are still doing for all of our clients. We're just paying a little bit closer attention. Mm-hmm. So build your reputation infrastructure, pay close attention to local, but also just keep that content helpful, keep it authoritative, and you're going to do well in both places.
Excellent advice there. Thank you, Amy. And I appreciate you coming on the podcast here today and helping our audience understand what they can do about SEO and AI searches out there, just the changes that are happening in the world and how we can stay competitive with that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So for all our listeners out there, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you got a lot out of today's podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Practice Marketing Podcast. And also check out our YouTube channel where we have these videos as well as a lot of other technical videos. And of course on practicepromotions.net where you can get our free marketing kit as well as all these tips and advices for your practice. So this is Neil from the Practice Marketing Podcast, wishing you much success in your practice.
A free way for you to support our show is by leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's a chance for you to tell us what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it as well. Just scroll down to ratings and review on your phone and click write a review. Thanks.